What if I told you there's someone who makes Elon Musk look poor? Someone who was a sickly teenager, no one believed it. He watched his great uncle get murdered. He went to war against Cleopatra and won, and he personally owned an entire country. His name became a title that rulers used for 2,000 years. This is the story of the richest man who ever lived. It's January 2026, and Elon Musk just hit $780 billion. To put that in perspective, if Elon wanted to spend all his money before he died, he'd need to burn through $63 million every single day for the next 34 years. That's buying a mansion every morning and a yacht every afternoon for 12,000 days straight. Elon Musk is without question the richest man alive today. But here's where things get interesting. There's someone from history whose wealth makes Elon look like he's playing with pocket change. Someone who controlled so much money that modern economists estimate his personal fortune at $4.6 trillion. But here's the thing that'll blow your mind. This man didn't inherit his wealth. He didn't invent electric cars or build rockets to Mars. No, he got rich the old-fashioned way through murder, betrayal, and one of the most brilliant political chess moves in human history. September 23rd, 63 BC. Somewhere in Rome, a baby is born. His name, Gaius Octavius Thurinus. And if you're thinking that doesn't sound like someone who'd become the richest man in history, you'd be absolutely right, because young Octavius, he was nobody special. His family was what Romans called equestrian class. Think middle management, not royalty. His father died when he was 4. He was a sickly kid, constantly ill, not particularly strong. Ancient historians describe him as thin, with weak lungs and a tendency to get sick at the worst possible times. This kid had no business changing the world, but he had one thing going for him, one connection that would change everything. His great-uncle's name was Julius Caesar. Now you've heard of Julius Caesar, right? The et tu, brute? One of the most famous Romans who ever lived? Well, young Octavius, this frail, unimpressive teenager, was his favorite relative. Caesar took the boy under his wing, brought him on military campaigns, taught him about power, politics, and war. But here's the thing. Caesar had one major problem. He had no son, no legitimate male heir. And in Rome, that was a crisis. March 15th, 44 BC, the Ides of March. 18-year-old Octavius is hundreds of miles away in Apollonia, in modern-day Albania, studying military strategy and waiting to accompany Caesar on a campaign to Parthia. Then a messenger arrives. Caesar is dead. Not dead of old age, not dead of disease, murdered, stabbed 23 times by a group of senators in the theater of Pompey. Can you imagine? You're 18 years old, far from home, and you just learned that your great uncle, the most powerful man in the world, has been assassinated. But that's not even the shocking part. The messenger has something else, a document, Caesar's will. And when they read it, everyone, including Octavius, is stunned. Julius Caesar has posthumously adopted Octavius as his son and named him the primary heir to his entire fortune. In one moment, this sickly nobody teenager becomes Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, the son of Caesar, the heir to the greatest name in Rome. But here's what makes this absolutely insane. Everyone back in Rome, they want him dead. Mark Antony, Caesar's right-hand man, expected to inherit everything. He's furious. He refuses to hand over Caesar's money. The senators who killed Caesar, they see young Octavius as the next threat. Even Cicero, the greatest orator in Rome, thinks this kid should just go home and forget about avenging Caesar. Everyone underestimates him. That would be their fatal mistake. Now here's where it gets interesting, because what 18-year-old Octavius does next is absolutely brilliant. He doesn't rage. He doesn't threaten. He doesn't storm into Rome demanding his inheritance. No, he does something much smarter. He starts calling himself Caesar. Not Octavius, not Octavianus, just Caesar. It's a power move, because the name Caesar isn't just a name anymore, it's a symbol. It represents the man who conquered Gaul, the man who crossed the Rubicon, the man who made Rome tremble. And now that man is a god, literally. After Julius Caesar's death, the Senate officially declared him divine, which means young Octavius can now claim he's not just Caesar's son, he's the son of a god, Divi Filius. Imagine being his enemies. You killed Caesar to save the Republic, and now his teenage heir is walking around Rome claiming to be semi-divine. And the people, they love him. But Octavius isn't stupid. He knows he can't take power alone. Not yet. So he makes a deal with the devil. Actually, two devils. He forms the second triumvirate with Mark Antony, the man who hated him, and Marcus Lepidus, another powerful general. Together, they control Rome. But this alliance, it's temporary. Everyone knows it. And Octavius is playing the long game. First, they hunt down Caesar's assassins, Brutus and Cassius, dead at the Battle of Philippi. Then, Octavius slowly, methodically, eliminates Lepidus, forces him into retirement. Now it's just two, Octavius in the west, Antony in the east. And that's when Antony makes his biggest mistake. Mark Antony meets Cleopatra. Yes, that Cleopatra. The Queen of Egypt, the richest woman in the world, the last pharaoh. And Antony falls for her. He abandons his Roman wife, Octavius' own sister, by the way, and shacks up in Alexandria with Cleopatra. They have 3 children together. Antony starts acting like an Eastern king instead of a Roman general. He even declares that Caesarion, Cleopatra's son by Julius Caesar, is the true heir, not Octavius. Back in Rome, this is a PR disaster. And Octavius? He pounces. He doesn't declare war on Antony. That would be a civil war, and Romans hate civil wars. Instead, he declares war on Cleopatra, the foreign queen, the Eastern temptress who's corrupted good Roman values. It's genius. Absolutely genius. He even gets his hands on Antony's will, possibly forged, we'll never know, and reads it publicly in the Senate. It says Antony wants to be buried in Alexandria, not Rome, that he's leaving his territories to Cleopatra's children. The Senate is outraged. They strip Antony of all power and declare him an enemy of Rome. Now comes the moment that will determine who rules the world. September the 2nd, 31st BC, the Battle of Actium. Off the coast of Greece, 2 massive fleets are about to collide. Antony and Cleopatra have 500 warships, 70,000 soldiers, the wealth of Egypt backing them. Octavius has 400 ships, 80,000 soldiers, and his brilliant admiral Marcus Agrippa. The battle is fierce. Ships ramming into each other, fire everywhere, thousands of men fighting and dying. And then Cleopatra's ships turn and flee. Antony, seeing his lover escaping, abandons his own fleet and follows her, leaves his soldiers behind, just sails away. His remaining forces, they surrender within a week. Antony has lost everything: his army, his fleet, his honor, his future. Octavius doesn't immediately pursue them. He's patient. He lets them stew in Alexandria for almost a year, watching their support crumble, their allies defect. When Antony finally arrives in Egypt in 30 BC, there's barely a fight. He hears a false rumor that Cleopatra is dead. He stabs himself with his sword, but the rumor was wrong. Cleopatra was alive, and she rushes to him. He dies in her arms. Cleopatra knows what's coming. Octavius will parade her through Rome in chains as proof of his victory. She'll be humiliated in front of the entire city. So she does the one thing she can control. She chooses her own death. According to legend, a poisonous asp. More likely, poison. And just like that, they're both gone. But here's what happens next that makes Octavius the richest man in history. He doesn't make Egypt a province controlled by the Roman Senate. No. He claims Egypt as his personal property. Think about that. The entire country of Egypt, with its gold mines, its grain fields, its ports, its wealth, becomes his private estate. Egypt at this time accounts for 25 to 30% of the entire world's economic output. And Octavius personally owns it. Not Rome, not the Senate. In 27 BC, Octavius pulls off his greatest trick. He stands before the Senate and makes a big show of restoring the Republic. He offers to give back all his powers and step down. The Senate predictably begs him to stay. They grant him a new title, Augustus, the revered one. He's no longer just Octavius or even Caesar, he's Augustus Caesar, the first emperor of Rome, though he never calls himself that. He prefers princeps, first citizen. It's brilliant marketing. He maintains the illusion of democracy while holding absolute power. And the wealth? Oh, the wealth is staggering. He personally controls Egypt's grain supply. If he wanted, he could starve Rome. He controls the gold mines, the trade routes. He has an income larger than many countries' entire GDP. Historians estimate that at his peak, Augustus personally controlled about 20% of the Roman Empire's economic output. And remember, the Roman Empire was producing 25 to 30% of the world's GDP at the time. Do the math. That's roughly $4.6 trillion in today's money. But here's what makes it even more insane. He spent most of it. Augustus didn't hoard his wealth like a dragon sitting on gold. He used it. He personally funded 30 Roman legions. That's about 150,000 soldiers. The entire military budget out of his own pocket. He built temples, aqueducts, roads, theaters. He established the grain dole, free food for Rome's poorest citizens, and paid for it himself. He transformed Rome from a city of brick into a city of marble. When asked about his greatest achievement, he supposedly said, "I found Rome a city of clay, but left it a city of marble." Augustus ruled for 41 years. 41 years of relative peace and prosperity. The Pax Romana, the Roman peace. He died in 14 AD at age 75 in his bed, surrounded by his family. Natural causes. Compare that to his adopted father Julius Caesar, stabbed 23 times. Or Antony and Cleopatra, double suicide. Or pretty much any other Roman leader, violently murdered. Augustus won. Completely. Totally. Permanently. His wealth was so legendary that his name became a title. Emperor after emperor would call themselves Caesar, even though they had no blood relation to him. The German word Kaiser, that's Caesar. The Russian word Tsar, that's Caesar. For 2,000 years, rulers have been using his name. The last person to officially use the title Tsar was Simeon II of Bulgaria, whose reign ended in 1946. That means from 27 BC to 1946 AD, there was always someone, somewhere, claiming the legacy of Augustus Caesar. Think about that. Augustus created a political structure so powerful, a legend so enduring, that it lasted for 2 millennia. So let's come back to 2026 for a moment. Elon Musk has $780 billion. That's enough to make him the richest living person by a huge margin. But Augustus, $4.6 trillion. That's more than 6 times Elon's wealth. That's more than the GDP of Norway, of Ireland, of most countries on Earth. And he started as a sickly teenager that nobody believed in. He survived an assassination, a civil war, betrayal by every person close to him, and a naval battle against the richest queen in the world. He turned himself from Octavius the nobody into Caesar the god's son, into Augustus the emperor. And he used that unimaginable wealth, not just to enrich himself, but to build an empire that would define Western civilization for the next 2,000 years. So yeah, Elon Musk is rich, really rich, but he's got a long way to go before he can call himself the richest man who ever lived. That title, that belongs to Augustus Caesar. And honestly, it probably always will. Thanks for watching my info trail. If you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon, because we've got more incredible tales that'll blow your mind. See you in the next one.